Hello and welcome to episode 47 of the Mr. Douglas Sports Show. I am your host as always, Corey Douglas, and this is the draft recap edition. And of course the draft happened this past weekend. A lot of different things happened for a lot of different teams, some good, some bad. But before I get to breaking all that down, including what happened with the Dallas Cowboys with their 11 picks they ended up making, I have to get to the main story that took over the entire sports world on Thursday afternoon, and that is Aaron Rodgers reportedly requested or has requested a trade from the Green Bay Packers. And this story blew up so fast, and there were so many different things flying in so many different directions. So I'm just going to start with the teams that are rumored to be interested in and just kind of go from there. Alright, so there's three teams that Aaron Rodgers would reportedly be interested in going to. You have the Denver Broncos, you have the San Francisco 49ers, and then you have the Las Vegas Raiders. So on the 49ers front, of course, they had the number 3 pick in the draft. That wasn't a valuable asset before the draft actually happened, and there were some inklings of things that maybe San Francisco would be able to put together a package. That did not come to fruition. Kyle Shanahan, head coach of the 49ers, was asked about it after the draft, and he said that he did, or the organization did, reach out to Green Bay, and he said it was a very quick conversation. Green Bay basically told them, "We're not trading him, get off my line," and that was that. Then later in the evening, a report out of Denver, Mark Slareth, sorry if I pronounced the name wrong, but he reported on his radio station that Denver and Green Bay were having deep trade talks and that a deal was all but done. That report was quickly disputed, and as we sit here today, Aaron Rodgers is still a Green Bay Packer, but if you ask a lot of people around the NFL, that is not expected to be the case when the 2021 season kicks off, and there's some threat that Aaron Rodgers may just hang it up and retire. Of course, he's been hosting Jeopardy. He did that for a week or a couple of weeks, and you know there's real legs behind the report that he could end up just retiring to really force Green Bay's hands. Next thing you have to get to is, how did this all come to fruition? It's no secret that Aaron Rodgers has been unhappy with the Green Bay organization for many years with some of the personnel decisions. Aaron Rodgers feels in a lot of situations they haven't done the best to put the best team around him to take real advantage of his prime. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is an elite quarterback. He only has one Super Bowl. That Super Bowl came over a decade ago now. So he doesn't feel like the organization's done their part to help him succeed. And then you look at last year's draft, trading up and drafting Jordan Love without even telling him that that's the direction they were going in, and drafting Jordan Love instead of drafting a receiver. They in desperate need of a receiver for years now behind Devontae Adams. They just continue to neglect it, and that made Aaron Rodgers mad. Then there's a report that Ian Rappaport came out with over the weekend, either Sunday or maybe Monday, saying that when the Packers traded wide receiver Jay Kumerow, that really set Aaron Rodgers back as well, as far as his mindset, as far as how committed Green Bay is committed to him long term, going forward past even the 2020 season where he won MVP. I don't know if Jay Kumerow is the end-all be-all and what really set Aaron Rodgers off. But what I do know is that Aaron Rodgers expressed his love for Jay Kumerow, and in the following days he was gone. So I think that could have played a part in it, but I think the years of just not really putting the surrounding parts up to Aaron Rodgers' satisfaction, I think that had a lot more to do with it. And then of course the drafting of Jordan Love and actually trading up and not telling him about it also played a major part in this. My gut feeling is that Aaron Rodgers will not be with Green Bay at the start of the season. I don't think he's going to retire. I do think he will be traded, and if I was a betting man, I would put my money on him being traded to Denver. Adam Schefter came out with a report on Monday night saying that he would not be scared to be in the same division as Patrick Mahomes. There is a report that's saying that he would actually take pride in sending Patrick Mahomes to the wild card every season. So that's something to watch. And I do think when it's all said and done, Aaron Rodgers will be gone in Green Bay and he will be in Denver. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. And I am going to go over the Dallas Cowboys draft. Of course, entering Thursday, they were scheduled to have 10 picks. That expanded to 11 in the first round when they made a trade between them and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Cowboys were scheduled to pick at number 10. They trade back to number 12. Philadelphia moves up, drafts Devontae Smith, receiver out of Alabama. And at 12, the Cowboys ended up with linebacker Micah Parsons. So just quick thoughts on this one was going into the draft, I even said it last week, I did not think that they would take Micah Parsons, especially at 10. And I expressed that I would be kind of unhappy with them taking Micah Parsons at 10. And that kind of energy still remains. I'm not just overly excited about this pick. I feel that I would have took Rashawn Slater, the offensive lineman, really solidified that offensive line again. But I'm not as unhappy as I would have been if they took Micah Parsons at 10. Taking him at 12 and acquiring an extra third-round pick, I think is huge for the Dallas Cowboys because, as I said last week as well, they have so many needs on defense at all three levels that helping the defense is never going to be a bad thing. And when J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain went off the board at 8 and 9, the best defensive player on the board at that point was Micah Parsons. So you can't really be too unhappy with that pick. And I found it interesting. I like what NFL.com does with their scouting breakdown of, what scouts are saying and how they grade them. So his prospect grade was a 6.89. And basically the way the scale works is the highest score that you can get is, I believe, an 8. And just based off just everything that I've been reading for Micah Parsons and kind of what I was reading even in before the draft pick was made, was that he has an elite speed and he's drawing comparisons to guys like Bobby Wagner, Bruce Irvin. So speed is a big strength of his, and the ability to pass rush, as he did play defensive end in high school. So we'll see if that can translate. One negative that I kept running into was that experience is a big thing for him, but also being able to play out in space and cover, running backs, tight ends. That is something that he's going to have to work on. But overall, not a bad pick. It definitely addresses a need, and it immediately puts Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch both on the hot seat, which we'll get to with one of their fourth-round picks a little bit later. In the second round, they took cornerback Kelvin Joseph from Kentucky. Originally, he's from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He started his college career at LSU, played his true freshman season there, and he ended up getting suspended for the team's bowl game. Ends up transferring in 2019, has to sit out due to college rules, and then goes to Kentucky, plays the 2020 season, catches 4 picks. And the ball skills is definitely something that jumps out when you read the scouting report on him and you just watch him on film. But that also can translate into a negative because sometimes he lacks focus and he kind of plays with his eyes in the backfield too much, which can get him burned in certain situations. His prospect grade was a 6.26 on NFL.com. So they project him, or at least I project him to come in and really compete for a starting job at cornerback opposite Trevon Diggs. And we'll kind of see how that goes. Now, in the third round is where things kind of got shaky for the Dallas Cowboys. According to multiple people, scouts, draft experts, other front offices even to a certain degree, this is where they kind of started to reach. So with their first pick in the third round, they took Oza. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name. He's a defensive tackle from UCLA. Obviously, like I said, defensive tackle, defensive line is definitely a need heading into the draft. And scouts feel with this one is his biggest strength is he can play anywhere along the defensive line, and he's always around the football. So that's the biggest strength that stood out to me. His draft profile was a 5.98. With their second pick in the third round, they took Chauncey Golston, defensive end from Iowa. Now, this is a guy projected as a leader. He was a part of the leadership team at Iowa. His prospect grade was a 5.80 on NFL.com. During his time at Iowa, he was able to add 40 pounds of muscle. So that tells me his work ethic is there. However, one downside that I continue to run into for him was that he does not know how to quite play with his power yet. And it's a guy that they probably reached for in the third round. He could have probably went a round later in the fourth or even the fifth round. But the Cowboys jumped up and took him at third. And then with their third pick in the third round, they took cornerback Deshaun Wright out of Oregon State. Now, this is a real, I guess, testament to how much Dan Quinn has say-so in the draft room and already as the Cowboys' new defensive coordinator. Because this is a guy that was projected to go in the 6th or 7th round. And as I was listening to the draft coverage, there was a lot of even guys that were covering the draft that had no idea about him. This is a guy, he's long. After he was drafted, he said that he thinks of himself as a more athletic Richard Sherman, which Richard Sherman went to Twitter and kind of had a laugh about that, but he did say he loved his confidence. Now, this is a guy that he is going to be very raw at the cornerback. Like I said, he's long, rangy, he's fast, and that's one of the things that the Cowboys wanted to improve on is the speed of their defense, and he definitely helps that, and he also helps with the size and the length, obviously. One negative thing about him is that he is very thin and struggles with his hips and coverage. So that's something that he's going to have to come in and really work for. And I think it would be really cool if the Cowboys went out and signed a veteran, Richard Sherman, to the team. Not for what he can only bring on the field, but I think he would be really helpful in the direction that the Cowboys want to go on defense. All right, with the first pick in the 4th round for the Cowboys, they took a lot of people's favorite pick, especially because the value of this pick. Jabril Cox out of LSU, linebacker. This was a guy that was projected to go in the 2nd or 3rd round. He drops all the way to the 4th round, and his prospect grade on NFL.com was a 6.26. And his biggest strength is his work ethic, and he's a guy that can cover at the linebacker position. And he's a guy that's expected to come in immediately for the Dallas Cowboys and be a matchup player from the very start. So yeah, this is by far my favorite personal pick as well. Like I said, because the value, I don't think there was a better value on the board at this point. And we'll get into a little bit of the experts' thoughts on the Cowboys draft here in a little bit. But yeah, this is by far my favorite pick of the draft. And I expect him to come in immediately and make an impact. Round 4, the 2nd pick, they took Josh Ball, offensive lineman from Marshall. Now, this is a guy that has character issues. He's had a couple, or not even a couple, he's had a few instances where he's been accused of domestic violence. It's his ex-girlfriend, to the point where the ex-girlfriend said that she was scared at certain times to even go to authorities because she wasn't sure what he was going to do or what he was capable of doing to her. In the 5th round, they took Simi Fehoko, wide receiver out of Stanford. Another guy with size and down the field ability. Round 6, probably my second favorite pick is Quentin Bahana, defensive tackle out of Kentucky. And this is the big guy on the defensive line that the Cowboys have been lacking for years. This is a guy that should free up the linebacker position. He should be able to, whoever's in there, whether it's Keanu Neal, whether it's Micah Parsons, Jalen, LVE, or Jabril Cox, the linebackers should play more free when Bahana is in the game. Love that pick. With the second pick in the 6th round, they took Israel Makinamu, cornerback out of South Carolina. And then with the final pick in the 7th round, they took Matt Farino, guard out of Nebraska. So that sums up the Dallas Cowboys draft. Like I said, they went into the draft with 10 picks. They ended with 11 after a trade in the 1st round with the Eagles. And so let's go ahead and get to what some of the scouts around the league are saying and kind of how they graded out for the Cowboys. Alright, so the first grade I have here is from CBS Sports and Pete Prisco. He gave the Cowboys a B overall for the draft. His favorite pick was Kelvin Joseph, and his worst pick was Nahshon Wright. And the reason he said Nahshon Wright is because he felt like they took him a round or two too early. Yahoo Sports gave the Cowboys a C-. They said the best pick was Jabril Cox. They like him paired with Parsons. Their least favorite pick was Joseph, and they cite the character concerns. Like I said, he was suspended at LSU due to team violations. Now, what that means, that could range from, just partying or, punching somebody in the face. It could range, has different ranges there. NFL.com, I'm taking this grade with a grain of salt, because I was looking down the other draft grades and they were pretty happy with everybody's draft. So for the Cowboys, they gave day 1 Micah Parsons, they gave that pick an A+. Their day 2 pick, where a lot of people felt like they kind of reached at a lot of positions, they gave them an A-. And then the day 3, they gave them a B. So like I said, I'm taking that with a grain of salt. Like I said, they were real positive with pretty much every team in the league. SI.com gave them a B. They didn't necessarily like the pick of Micah Parsons, but they understood with the position that they were in with Jalen Smith and LVE, that linebacker was definitely a need for them, and they understood that pick. The favorite pick was Jabril Cox, and they just cite that they were surprised that he lasted long, which I touched on a little bit earlier. Some people thought he would be taken in the 2nd or 3rd round. He goes in the 4th, so that's the best value. Pro Football Focus gave the Cowboys a B. They didn't think linebacker was a pressing need. I disagree with that. Like I said, the state of Jalen Smith and then not picking up LVE's 5th-year option, so now he can become a free agent after this upcoming year. Linebacker was definitely a need, so I understood that, so I disagree with them there. They have Ozzy. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name. They had him as the highest graded player during the Senior Bowl and leading up to the week leading up to the Senior Bowl. So they love him. They love his power. They love his quickness. Their thoughts on Nahshon Wright was that he lacks athleticism, but they do like the 5 interceptions in 18 games, and they think he best fits as a zone player. They love the Cox pick, Jabril Cox. They think they had him as the best player on the board at that time. Then Gil Brandt, he gave the Cowboys an A+ in the draft. He thought 30 of the 32 teams had solid drafts, but the ones that stood out to him were the Eagles, Giants, Cowboys, Jets, Patriots, and Browns. So take that for what it is. Then Dane Brugler, who I love his draft work with The Athletic. He ranked the Cowboys as having the 24th ranked draft class in football. That's not great to hear, because this guy is one of the best in the business. So I take his word with a little more weight to it. It holds a little more weight for me. But overall, I think the Cowboys addressed a lot of needs on defense, taking 8 out of the 11 players on defense. Now it's a matter of getting the players in and seeing what type of impact they can have. I will be back later this week with a regular episode of the Mr. Douglass Sports Show. But until next time, salute.